Welcome back to another episode of Wellness Wednesday Live. I am thrilled today to announce that we have a special guest in store for you, Dr. Ashley Mack. He has over 10 years helping busy adults with sciatica pain. He's the host of the #1 podcast for sciatica and has built a platform for adults to free themselves from the chains of sciatica pain without medications or surgery. That's absolutely fantastic. I'm so excited to hear from you today, Dr. Mack. Welcome.
Thank you. The pleasure is all mine. It's an honor to be on today's episode.
Fantastic. Well, as you know, my audience has autoimmune issues, autoimmune disease, autoimmune protocols are on, and that can run the gamut from Hashimoto's to Crohn's to all different types. And with autoimmune disease, we have a lot of chronic pain. The pain is just an energy dragger, it sucks the energy right out of us. And I know with sciatica, I personally have sciatica myself and been able to help myself as well with solutions. But I'm curious, share with us and our listeners here what sciatica does with chronic pain and the mindset behind that and how you've been able to help people overcome that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. It's a great question, especially in this population when we're dealing with autoimmune disorders, especially when it comes to having to deal with the actual pain itself and the issues that come with having an autoimmune disease. And so I think one of the most important parts throughout this, when you're experiencing both chronic pain and autoimmune disease, is to understand or try to determine whether or not what you're experiencing is actually caused by your autoimmune disease, as in your own immune system is actually attacking your nerves and the areas causing this pain, or is it an orthopedic issue where literally there is some sort of mechanical block, whether it be your bones or some sort of structural issue, whether it be in your discs? And so a large part of it is identifying, well, what am I experiencing? And to help clear the air, sciatica pain itself is going to be irritation along the sciatic nerve. And what does that truly mean? The sciatic nerve starts actually in our spine. It exits at L3, L4, L5, S1, S2, and S3. So those are the nerve roots. Those are the areas that actually exit our spine. And these nerve roots actually come together and they form the sciatic nerve, which is a very thick band. It's a thick, pretty much like a rubber tube that extends all the way from your back and extends all the way down into your foot. And it actually supplies the sensation and motor function of the back of your thigh and the entire area below your knee. So that's going to be your shin, your calf muscle, the outer edge of your shin, as well as your feet. So you can actually, when you have sciatic pain or sciatic nerve irritation, your pain distribution can be found along that route. What's really interesting is that when people get diagnosed with sciatica pain, it really is a description of your symptoms and where it's located. Because truth be told, sciatica pain can be caused by many various different things. One, it could be caused by bony overgrowth or arthritis that you have in your back. That usually happens as we get a little bit older. You'll hear stuff like degenerative disc disease, bony arthritis, bone spurs, spinal stenosis or foraminal stenosis. And then we have another cause, which could be a herniated disc. And a really interesting thing about the discs in our back, I want you to imagine that the discs in our back, they're kind of like jelly donuts, where you have, or we'll say like an onion, a jelly-filled onion, where the layers of your disc are kind of like onions, where they're housing this gel-like substance. And over time, as those layers get a little bit weaker, either due to overuse or time, your discs themselves can bulge a little bit. And that bulge can lead to irritation of the nerves that form the sciatic nerve. And that's where we can have pain. And the key, as I said before, especially when we're dealing with autoimmune issues, is to be able to see, is the pain that I'm feeling actually caused by the fact that my immune system is attacking a portion of my nerves or portion of my body causing this pain? Or is it something that's truly happening in my body that's actually causing some sort of block?
So interesting and such good points, because I've had slip discs, I've had herniated discs, L4, L5, and I've been hospitalized from the pain. It's excruciating. And to your point of finding the root cause of it, is it your immune system being attacked? Or is it, the bone structure and something that's happening within your body on the sciatic nerve for the pain? And I think sometimes with autoimmune disease, we think, everything's just related to that, right? It's the stress that we put on ourselves, it's the environment, it's the toxins. When in fact, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not related, and maybe it is something else, right? And to really have that understanding and knowledge, what you just said, Dr. Mack, and fully explaining. So thank you for that, because some listeners might not understand I have this pain on my leg, but what is it? Is it a pinched nerve? Is it sciatica? Like, what does that even mean? So, and I love the reference to the jelly donut. I don't think anyone's going to forget that one. But yeah, really thinking about, is my immune system being attacked, and how can I change that or change the environment and the where I'm at? Or is it something within my body? So when working with patients, where do you find, most of the root causes are with people that do have autoimmune disease? Is it part of their autoimmune disease that's causing this? Or is it something else that's completely unrelated? Maybe they've been working out the wrong way or something to that effect.
It's a fantastic question. It's a question that I'm going to say, I think this is the best answer, is that it really will differ between person to person. And it's very important that we look at the context as to why or when and how this pain came about. So say, for example, we'll say you, Robyn, you were just standing there and you weren't doing anything, and you were probably sitting there, and being that it's summertime, you're enjoying the sights and sounds, and it's just really lovely. And you bend over, and all of a sudden, bam, you actually experience pain going down your leg, maybe a little bit of back pain as well. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, that hurts really bad. But especially if we are dealing with, say, an autoimmune disorder, what we're looking at is, okay, well, what were the conditions as to when this pain came on? And so here we are. We know that autoimmune disease gets mitigated with lower stress environments, right? So if you're standing outside, enjoying the sunlight, really just looking out at nature, stress levels are probably be pretty low at that point. And then we look at, okay, well, what was the incidence? Okay, you bent over and boom, you felt the pain. So at that point, I like to think, all right, well, if that's the case, if there was an action that led to a reaction that was outside of the scope of, okay, well, stress is relatively low, you've been doing really well on movement, you're doing really well on exercise. Okay, well, we're with a high amount of certainty, we're thinking that this is actually caused by the fact that it was bending over that caused the pain. And so from there, we can say, all right, well, why does bending over cause pain? Could it have been poor exercise technique over a span of weeks to months? Could it be that your body was just tired and bending forward was the last straw that broke the camel's back? So being able to look at the whole environment, and that's what I think what's most important when you're trying to manage a pain like this, or even pain in general, is being able to say, if we were to not even take a time machine, but if you were to go backwards in time and figure out, okay, this is the instance of when I felt pain, were the scenarios? What was the level of stress that I had? What was I eating? What was the activity that I just did? And for the most part, if you say bent over and you felt pain, most likely there was that action that actually caused it. But I think also to keep of note with that, it's not always bending forward that's actually going to be causing your pain. Usually when someone bends and touches their toes and their pain actually gets worse, we're looking mostly at a herniated disc. But what's really, really interesting about that is as we get a little bit older, with every decade in life, the water contents of that disc actually dries up. So the likelihood that our discs actually will herniate will in fact go down, because we're going to have less contents of that disc to actually push out. And so it allows us to ask some really big questions in regards to what are we experiencing? Again, what's the context? What were these stressors? Was I going to have an autoimmune flare-up? Now, if you have an autoimmune flare-up at the same time, if you have an autoimmune flare-up and then you have an onset of pain, that's a different story. That's where we can look at what were these factors that led to the flare-up in the first place, and does this flare-up actually present itself as pain distributed along the sciatic nerve. So those are the couple things that we'd be looking at. It would be movement, but then also what happened around that time that may have led to this scenario.
Absolutely, such good points, because I know when I had severe sciatic pain and had to go to the hospital, I woke up one morning and my leg was numb from my hip down to my ankle, and I went to get up and I fell. And my husband had to come bring me to the bathroom, and I couldn't bend down. And it was the most excruciating pain I've ever experienced. And as a mom, I've birthed a child. This was way worse because I didn't have an epidural. But I'm saying, it's really that pain that, okay, but what you said exactly, it wasn't my motion of getting out of bed. It was what led up to it. What did I do the day before? What did I do the week before? Even the month before leading up to it, that was stressing my body, which was weakening my immune system, having an autoimmune disease. And then that's the result of it. And I know I was in a very stressful time in my life, and I had done some workouts I don't normally do. I was challenging myself and twisting ways that I know I probably shouldn't have, but it felt good at the time. And I was so excited I could do that, right? So it's also, I think, knowing your limits, but also with autoimmunity, just being aware of what's happening to your body. So is it a result of what's happening, or is it true with your autoimmunity, or is it truly something that's not related at all and has to do with other factors in the environment or within your body that are happening? Because looking at the whole environment really is looking at the root cause of what's happening. So again, it's really important to understand for our listeners that are listening that when you do have pain down your leg or in the sciatica area, that maybe it is autoimmune related because you're extremely stressed and something triggered it, or maybe it has nothing to do with it whatsoever. Because I've had sciatica my whole life. Now, autoimmune disease, you can't really tell if you've had it your whole life. You're pretty much for at least Hashimoto's diagnosed women, 30s to 35, in that range. But there's still something to say that maybe you're always born with it and it just comes up in your blood work because of the environment or different factors. So looking at the whole environment, but really the actions leading up to it over time, I think are spot on in relating to finding the root cause of what's happening. And then that being said, Dr. Mack, what are the best ways to overcome sciatica pain, in the moment and then long term, so it doesn't come back repetitively in your life?
Yeah, great question. It's something I get asked all the time, is why people come to me. But I think if we were to, one thing that actually I'm gonna start off with is one of the things that got me excited about linking up with you is that when you work with your clients, you actually have, I believe it's 4 pillars, right? You have movement, mindset, nutrition, and then I forgot that sleep was the 4th. Accountability.
Yes, exactly.
And so and it's a great system. And I think what's important is that we live in a world where there's so much information, and it's very, very easy to try to increase the value of things or seem valuable by making things more complex. But the magic when it comes to results is having a very clear, simple, and effective way to manage various different things. For you, you have the 4 pillars, which is going to help busy moms in your audience actually address their autoimmune disorders, but to live their best life, right? And so when it comes to managing sciatica pain, whether it be caused by an autoimmune issue or like a true orthopedic issue, it's very similar to what you're talking about from the 4 pillars. So for you have your 4 pillars, I have my 3 principles. My 3 principles is a very simple one. Step number 1 is that you are going to be focusing specifically on the activities and exercises and stretches and positions. Anything that is actually going to bring your pain down or make you feel better. And what does better actually mean? And I think what often a lot of people fall through or have issues with is that they think when you feel better, it's one day you have pain and then one day you have 0 pain. I wish that was the scenario, but for the most part, when we are dealing with an injury, say an irritation of the sciatic nerve, we're going to be dealing with a fair amount of inflammation, and it's going to take some time for inflammation to go down. The highest level of inflammation is going to be happening within the first 72 hours. And so what we have to do is understand that better, anything that truly makes you, that feels, and usually when I work with my clients, I describe feeling better as a couple of different things. If we're looking at pain intensity, looking at your pain intensity, 10 out of 10 pain is take me to the hospital. Robyn, you probably felt that when you woke up that one
Exactly.
morning and took you to the hospital, right? And then we have 0 being no pain. And so as long as you're moving closer to 0 compared to the day before, or even the moment before you do an exercise, that will actually be giving you a good sign to say, okay, this activity is making me feel better. The next definition of better is the area, the size of your pain. And so if you have pain pretty much extending across your entire leg on the backside, and you do an activity or exercise, and that goes from your entire leg to just your butt, the area of pain actually shrinks. And that's actually another good sign as well. Another area that people overlook is this concept, we call it centralization in the physical therapy and also chiropractic world as well, is when the pain goes from farther down your leg up closer to your back. And so if you're experiencing pain in your leg and you do a stretch and all of a sudden your leg pain is gone, but your back is killing you, that's still heading in the right direction. That's what we call centralization of symptoms. And I often say it's kind of like toothpaste. You want to roll up the tube of toothpaste because you want to get everything out, and your back is the last part. The last piece of it that well, actually another piece is like if you feel a little bit more flexible, if you feel a little bit stronger than before. And another area is what we call this level, the spectrum of nerve irritation. And if we were to say on one end of the spectrum, the highest level of nerve irritation is complete loss of sensation and muscle weakness. That's, you're looking at possible nerve damage. That's real high intense nerve irritation. On the other end of the spectrum, there's no nerve irritation, there's no pain, there's no weakness. Everything is feeling pretty normal. So there's a spectrum that operates in between them. So if we're starting at the most irritated, we're having numbness and weakness, what we then transition onto is maybe feeling more what we call pins and needles. It's kind of like your foot fell asleep. From there, as it improves, it can go into more of a burning sensation. That burning sensation telling us that there's a little bit more firing, a little bit more activity. So you go from, we'll say numbness, pins and needles to burning. From that burning, you're maybe experiencing more of a sharp shooting pain. The sharp shooting pain allows us to understand that, okay, we're probably getting a little bit more activation of that nerve. It's getting a little less irritated. From the sharp shooting, we transition onto what we call more of a deep ache. It's like, oh, it's like really, really sore. And then from that deep ache, we can transition into this really interesting phase, which is right before complete resolution, is what we call tightness, maybe even heaviness. It doesn't feel painful, but it doesn't quite feel normal as compared to what it was. And that's often kind of like the last step in this scenario. And then you have complete resolution. So if you notice that your symptoms are actually moving in that spectrum, you know you're heading in the right direction. So doing those activities, stretches, positions, anything, no matter how weird it is, if you notice that looking over your right shoulder as if you're reaching into your back pocket actually makes your pain go away, you have permission to do that same exact position, because that is exactly what your body needs at that specific moment in time. That's principle number one. Very long-winded. But principle number two is the exact opposite. So anything that actually increases your pain, or anything that increases your pain, you want to avoid or modify so it doesn't increase your pain. And it may sound extremely simplistic. If something hurts, stop doing it. And the reality is that it gives us time and an opportunity to heal, because when you are experiencing pain, it's like you're dealing with a healing scab. And all of our parents, as we were growing up, probably told us to not pick our scabs. And there's a huge truth to that, because every time you pick your scab, you're going to bleed a little bit more. It's painful. It's going to slow down healing. And so when you take those activities or modify those activities where you're not picking at that scab, it allows your body to heal, and also allows your body to say, okay, let's recover from this sciatica pain. So that's principle number two. Principle number three is creating a plan that will get you back into doing the activities that you love. And these three, and so what that means is, if you know that you want to be able to go out to walk and hike, then you should be thinking about, if I do this activity, if I do this stretch and it feels better, it's going to get me one step closer to being able to go out and hike. And that gives us an opportunity to do multiple different things. But I think from your accountability standpoint, all these exercises, all the information that we find, that out on the internet, it's all really useful if we use it.
Mhm.
And I think 100% knowledge is power, but we have to be able to take that to the next level, being able to say, let's implement this. And that's why we have to look at into working out a plan, working with people like you and me to be able to say, here's this information, but let's go ahead and do something like that. So I wanted to share those principles, because that actually is going to be even more powerful than going on the internet and saying, doing this stretch is going to fix 85% of sciatica pain sufferers. And the truth is that there's no research that says one specific stretch is going to help out with sciatica pain, because pain is an extremely individual experience. And the challenge with research is the fact that when you're trying to have all these specific criteria and have everyone try to do this one specific stretch, you're going to get some really mixed reactions, because of the fact that the pain itself could be caused by many different factors. And that is going to be the most valuable.
Absolutely. And such good points, Dr. Mack. There's so many things I can relate to having autoimmunity and sciatica, having Hashimoto's, hypothyroidism. When you said one of the, and number one principle, or you asked, if someone wants to be better, 0 to 10, where's your pain scale? You want to be better, each day. And when I work with my clients, I say, where's your energy? On a scale of 1 to 10. When I started, I was at a 0. I was not even on the charts. And now I'm a 10 plus every single day. So I love that analogy, and it's completely relatable for autoimmunity as well as pain with sciatica, because pain is pain. It doesn't matter what it is specifically. Pain is painful. It hurts. It's debilitating. And then being able to increase your awareness and avoid pain, avoid activities or modify, and really getting back to what you love. And that's the whole key too, bringing it back together with sciatica pain, autoimmunity. When you want to get back to living your life instead of existing, you got to put in the plan. You got to, when you work with one of us, it's really putting and creating the plan for your life so you can live instead of exist. So you can make yourself a priority, because it's not selfish, to put yourself first, to really find the root cause of your pain so you're not miserable anymore. So such great points, completely relatable. I can relate as a mom, as an autoimmune mom, and with both areas. And it's just something that needs to be talked about more. And I truly believe dealing and working with your practitioners as well as professionals and experts like us really is what helps people get better. It's the combination of working together, because together we're all better. Now, Dr. Mack, if you have one last tip you want to give our listeners, what would that be?
I think the most important tip is to give yourself permission to take care of yourself. If you're a busy parent, if you're a business owner, if you're someone whose existence is to serve others, in order for you to take care of anyone else around you, you have to be able to take care of yourself. And it's so easy for us to put ourselves pretty much on the road so people can step over us. And it can be, you can feel quite guilty when trying to care for yourself, but grant yourself that permission. You are granting yourself permission to take care of yourself by listening and watching this. And there's really no shame, because once you fill your cup, you can fill everyone else's.
Absolutely. I love that. That's spot on. Give yourself permission to seek the solution that works for you. And we have it right here with Dr. Mack and myself working together. Together, like I said, we are all better. So thank you so much, Dr. Mack. Appreciate your time and your expertise. And how do my listeners get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I have the website ifixyoursciatica.com. Really easy way to spell it is the letter I, FIXYOURSCIATICA.com. Or you can also find my podcast on Apple or Spotify. Just type in the word sciatica and you'll find that. And then you can reach out to me directly. You can shoot me a text at 551-231-1318.
Love it. And I'm going to put all of that in contact information down in the comments and notes below. And I am so excited to continue this conversation. Thank you again for being here, Dr. Mack.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you, Robyn.
You're welcome.